Hare Krishna. We welcome you all once again to Gita Diploma course. Thank you so much for being with us live, watching this session on YouTube and Facebook on Hare Krishna TV. This is Madhusudan Vishnu, and I welcome you again and again. Today is the last chapter of the second unit of Bhagavad Gita, which is chapter number 12. This is the shortest, or you can say one of the shortest chapters, only 20 verses, but power packed with so much of knowledge about Bhakti Yoga, the yoga of devotional service. It's the culmination of this unit, so you can imagine Lord Krishna is going to summarize the teachings on the path of bhakti in this chapter. It's very helpful for anyone who wants to go deeper into the practice of bhakti or devotional service to Krishna. So without any delay, let's start the discussion and the presentation on this chapter by chanting the prayers. You can kindly speak the prayers along with me. Om Jnana-timirandhasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So a quick revision of what we discussed in chapter 11. That was a very, very dramatic chapter. Arjuna put a request in front of Krishna that he wanted to see that form through which the Lord pervades the entire universe. So he makes that request, and then Lord Krishna, in response, would show the universal form to Arjuna. But before he shows that, he gives a verbal description of the universal form. Then Sanjay begins to narrate what was happening on the battlefield. Krishna was showing, Arjuna was watching the universal form, and this is what Sanjay was trying to narrate to Dhritarashtra, giving a mental picture to Dhritarashtra. How did the universal form look like? Now, this form of God is not the spiritual form or the form in the spiritual world. This form of God is only within the material world. It's only within the material world. And the only feelings that this form can inspire in someone is that of awe, reverence, and some kind of fear. So Arjuna then relates his experience of seeing that form. He also sees a very specific part of that form which is so horrifying to watch. And looking at that, Arjuna asks two questions: who are you and what is your mission? So Lord Krishna says, Kalosmi, I am time, and I've come here to destroy all the people except you, the Pandavas. And after that, Arjuna then teaches us the science of prayer. 4 steps. I don't know how many of you still remember that. 4 steps to pray. And then after that, he requests Krishna to show his 4-armed Narayana form, which Lord Krishna shows. And then after that, he further shows the 2-armed, the most confidential, the most beautiful, the most difficult to see, the rare form of Krishna, known as Saumya Vapuhu. And finally, when Arjuna asks, who can become qualified to this form of yours? Then Lord Krishna says, one who engages in pure bhakti. With that, we ended chapter 11. Now proceeding to chapter 12, Dear to God. So here we begin this chapter by asking you a question. I hope all of you are ready for our question and answer sessions. So, are all the worshippers, so many kinds mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, are at the same level, or they are at different levels? It's simple yes or no answer would suffice. So are all the worshippers at the same level, or they are at different levels? You say yes and no. Okay, very good. No is the correct answer. They are not. They are at different levels of worshiping Krishna. Krishna did mention in Bhagavad Gita about the different kinds of worshippers. And then he has mentioned, that who is the topmost and, of course, who is the lowest, right? So here now, if I ask you the next question, which is, if these 5 are there and we have to put them in the order, from the topmost to the bottommost, or from the highest to the lowest, in what order will you put these 5? Who comes first? mixed bhakta, demigod worshipper, someone worshipping the universal form, a pure bhakta, or someone worshipping the impersonal form. Of these five, who comes at the highest level, the topmost, the best? It's again a very simple question so far. If you have understood Bhagavad Gita, you would know the answer of it. All right, we are getting some responses. So first comes the pure devotee, right? That's true. So first comes the pure devotee. That's the topmost level. Now, what will be the next level? The second person. I would request you to quickly answer and also answer with the number so that I know, okay, you're going for first for this, second for that, third for that. So like that. So you say 1 dot, 2 dot, 3 dot. So the second one would be, it's very easy, mixed bhakti. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And what about the third one? That's a difficult choice, right? Who is at the third level? The third level is those worshipping the universal form. And then the fourth one is those worshipping the demigods. And the fifth one is the one worshipping the impersonal form of the Lord. Five types of worshippers, highest to lowest. Arjuna, he falls in which category? That's the next question for all of you to answer. Arjuna falls in which category? Out of these five, which is the category to which he belongs? Pure bhakti, mixed bhakti, worshipping universal form, this, that. Okay, very good. Tulika ji, you're always at the first answering the questions. So he is pure devotion at that level, Ananya Bhakti. Though he is at that level, he would now want to seek a confirmation from Krishna, an acknowledgement that he is at the topmost level or he's at the best level. You know, it's very so natural when you like someone or you love someone or you want to be in the good books of someone. You would also want to get a confirmation from that person that whether that person likes you or not, that person loves you or not, that person really admires you or not. It's natural. So Arjuna here, he thoroughly loves Krishna. He's a pure devotee of Krishna. So he also would want to know that, so many people approach you, love you, worship you. What is my position? Is my love for you at that level, or it's not really at that level? He wants to know his own standing in Krishna's eyes. Where does he stand in his devotion to Krishna? So he's checking that, and with that he mentions this first verse of chapter 12, which is evam satatayuktaye bhaktastam paripasate ye chapi aksharam avyaktam tesham ke yoga vittamaha. Arjuna inquired, which are considered to be more perfect? And then he gives two choices to Krishna. First, those who are always properly engaged in your devotional service, which means the bhaktas tam paripasate, or those who worship the impersonal Brahman, the unmanifested, aksharam avyaktam. So out of these two, who is the best? Now, a quick lesson. Love is not one-sided. One who loves is always curious to know or has the anticipation whether the beloved is satisfied with him or her or not. If such anticipation is not there, there is no life in that love. I like that line so much. If such eagerness or enthusiasm or anticipation is not there, then there's no life, prana, in that love. So Arjuna's question is very simple, and Krishna does understand Arjuna's mood behind asking this question. So he's giving a choice, a devotee and impersonalist. Out of these two, who is better? And Krishna is going to speak about them in these verses. He talks about the devotee in verse 2, 6, and 7. And he talks about the impersonalist in the verses 3, 4, and 5. So what does he say? A very simple, straightforward answer by Lord Krishna. Maya Veshya Mano Ye Mam. He says the personalists, oh Arjuna, the personalists, my devotees, they are the best, they are the topmost, they are the best. And then what about the impersonalists? And Krishna's what happens to them? And Krishna says, Well, such people also, at last they achieve me, they come to me. Really? They achieve you? Then what is the difference then? Hmm? Krishna says, they only attain my effulgence or Brahma Jyoti, my impersonal aspect. So they do come to me, but they don't get me completely. They get me partially. They only get an aspect of me which is known as impersonal aspect or the Brahma Jyoti aspect. Now, before we go to the next verses, it will be very nice for us to understand these technical terms related to Param Satya or Absolute Truth. There are three technical terms known as Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. And if you know this subject nicely, I'm telling you, you can understand all the different kinds of worshippers in this world. They fall in either one of this category to some extent if they really worship the Absolute Truth. So, we will talk about it with an example, explain this whole concept with an example of a railway train. I'm sure most of you must have seen a railway train. Uh, so once it happened that a person, he visited a very remote village. That village was far, far, far away from the main city, and he came to the main city by a train, a long distance train. And then he got down there, unboarded there, and from there, somehow or other, he took some kind of transport to reach to the village. When he reached to the village, it was quite late at night, and people, they were very happy to receive him as a guest. You know, there were times in India or maybe in other places in the world too that people were very warm in their dealings. Even a stranger would be treated so warmly, in such a friendly manner that that person would feel at home. So when this person reached the village, they were talking, chit chatting. Who are you? Where are you from? How did you happen to come here? What brings you here? By what means you reached here? So then he said, I came here by a railway train. And they were like, train? What is a train? We have never seen a train. How does it look like? Does it look like a horse? Does it look like an elephant or a bullock cart? What is a train? And this man was, what? You people don't know what's a train? Said, never ever we have seen it. Forget about, traveling in it. So how does it look like? Can you explain? He tried hard to explain to them, but they could not figure out what a railway train looks like. So I said, okay, I have a solution. I'll take three people from here, young, intelligent people from your village, with me to the station tomorrow, railway station. And then there I'll show them what is a train. Then they can come back and explain to you all what a train looks like. And they said, all right, good idea. So they selected the best three, the most three intelligent people, persons in the village, young men, and sent along with this traveler. By the time these four reached the railway station the next day, it was already very dark. Night had come, and they were waiting. In remote towns or villages, trains don't come very frequently. Maybe once in a whole day, you'll have only one train or two trains, something like that. So this train was coming, and while it was coming, it was making sound. The engine was making sound. There was whistling, and there was a very strong headlight on. So when the train was coming from far, they could see this light at the front. And the traveler said, this is the train. So one of them got really excited. Oh, this is the train. It is so bright and the light is just coming towards you. I have seen the train. Let me just go back and tell everyone. And the traveler said, hey, come on, wait. The train is not yet fully here. And they said, he could not wait for that whole thing. He said, this is it. This is the train. Let me quickly go and let me the first one to tell the villagers what the train looks like. He left. Two people stayed back with the traveler. Soon the train came and it entered into the station, was on the track, moving in front of the platform. And the second person saw, oh, this is the train. It has a light in the front, and then it has an engine, and it has so many coaches. And the man said, yes, this is the train. And he also immediately ran to the village to tell people, you see, that person who was here at first to tell you the train is a light, I'm telling you it's not a light. It also has some coaches. But he also did not wait to see the complete train. The third person, he waited. And when the train stopped, then he saw that so many passengers were getting down. He also got a chance to go inside the compartments and see there were berths there. People were sitting, talking, sleeping, eating. There were so many other things inside the train. And then after he did complete survey of what a train looks like, he came out satisfied. Fine, now I know what a train is. So now out of these three people, they all went to see the train. But did they actually all see the train? Who amongst them saw the train completely? The first, the second, the third. Who? It's a very simple question, right? Very, very simple question. So who amongst them saw the train actually? Who? The last one, right? The last one, the third person, he saw what exactly a train is. Similarly, the absolute truth or Bhagavan can be seen by people differently based on how much they want to see him or how much they want to know him. So those who just see God as light, I'm sure you must have heard people say, I won't take any names here, but there are organizations, there are speakers, there are spiritualists who will say God is light, God is brightness, something like that. And they will ask you to meditate upon that. God is Brahma Jyoti. So they are like those people. I mean, they are like that man who did not wait to watch that the train has a farm, the train has people inside. He just saw the headlight and this is a train. So there are people who say God is light, but that is the least understanding of God, or most, you can say, incomplete understanding of God. Then the next is called Paramatma realization, which means God is not just some energy, but God also has a form, just like the train has a form. And the final realization, or the ultimate realization, is called Bhagavan realization, which means God has a form, and also there are other personalities, there are other people around God. It's a family, and these personalities are always serving the Supreme Lord. So there's a lot of variety in God's life, in God's kingdom, in God's own personality, in God's entourage. That's called Bhagavan realization. So that realization or understanding is the highest. Now, just a quick look at this table to understand these three terms more: Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. The understanding is what, in the Brahman understanding, people think God is impersonal and is all pervading. And to come to this understanding, they take to a specific path. Which path it is? It's a very simple question. I mean, of course, you have to know little of Bhagavad Gita properly to answer this. Which path do those who worship Brahman follow? We discuss about different paths in Gita, right? The path of karma, the path of jnana, the path of dhyana, meditation, or the path of bhakti. So which path do they take to? They take to the path of Jnana Yoga. Very good. They take to the path of Jnana. And the result is called Brahman realization, and the destination is impersonal Brahma Jyoti. Then the next is Paramatma. Here they are able to understand the Supreme Absolute as localized super soul. Localized super soul. And the path they take is called the path of meditation, dhyana. Result is Paramatma realization, and destination is again impersonal Brahma Jyoti. Finally, in Bhagavan realization, where they are able to realize that the Supreme Lord is a person with six opulences. They take to which path? Again, it's a very simple question. So, by which path can they realize God, absolute truth, as Bhagavan, complete with six opulences? Shad Aishwarya Purna. It's the path of, two paths are already mentioned now, the remaining one, the third one. Yes, yes, yes. Very good. The path of bhakti or devotion, by which they are able to go to Bhagavan realization, and ultimately the destination is spiritual abodes known as Vaikuntha Dham. Okay, then we talk about the next subject mentioned in this chapter, which is impersonal meditation. It's very commonly known these days as Vipassana meditation. So many people do this Vipassana exercise, emptying your mind, going inside into the caves, meditating on silence or a zero drawn on the wall, something like that. So, this is called meditation on Brahman, a kind of practice, or light or silent meditation. So there are people who do follow that, but for them, Lord Krishna mentions here in Bhagavad Gita that such people, they experience lots of hardships while doing this, what they try to do, that kind of meditation. Why it's not so natural? We'll come to that later. So before we go there, I just want to bring it to your notice that in the modern times, spirituality, like any other thing, has become so much a business, so much of show off spirituality is, or you know, fake spirituality is available in the market. In fact, there is a complete spiritual marketplace available. You'll find so many people talking on so many different subject matters and claiming themselves to be spiritualist. However, that's not how spirituality is. For it to be genuine spirituality, we should know, first of all, that it should be related to the subject matter of spirit. Spirit means Atma, which means different from matter, opposite to matter. So, as long as the knowledge that people are sharing only on the mundane platform, on the platform of the body or the mind or the intelligence or the ego, it cannot be really called as complete spirituality. Spirituality means the topic of discussion should be Atma, spirit, soul, or spiritual energy. So there are different kinds of impersonalists which are mentioned uh, based on the study of Bhagavad Gita, and we will look at them quickly. Now, this list is very, very handy, very helpful. If you become aware of these points, you will immediately identify people who are impersonalists, and they might also be spiritually, popular, known, might be giving lots of talks or lectures, or doing workshops, or even having an organization trying to teach people spirituality. But then from these points, you'll come to know whether they are personalists or they are impersonalists. So first kind of impersonalism, these people, they would say it doesn't matter whom you consider God. All are God. Everyone is God. It's just your choice, whom you like, whom you love, who is more appealing to you. If Ganesha is more appealing to you, you chant Ganesha's names. If Shiva is more appealing to you, we'll give you Shiva mantra. If you like Krishna, then you can take Krishna mantra. So it depends on you. Doesn't matter whom you consider God. Now that's first kind of impersonalism. Then the second kind of impersonalism is the guru would say that he himself is God, rather than talking about the real God. He would say, I am God, indirectly or directly. Then third point is, most of those people who are impersonalists, it doesn't mean that all those who worship Shiva and Ganesha are impersonalists, but most of the people who get inclined to worshiping Lord Shiva or Ganesha are in the category of impersonalists. Then fourth point, they would say sometimes God is there, but Guru is more important than God, or Guru is the most important person. Finally, fifth point, they would also sometimes say you are God, which means you, he, she, they, me, everyone are God. Sixth, all are one. Everything is one. All are same. God, human, demigods, materialistic people, spiritualists, doesn't matter. They're all one. Seventh, such people or such gurus, They talk more about life and less about God or spiritual subject matter. They are more interested in giving you relationship lessons, life lessons, business lessons, or how to release your stress and all that kind of stuff. But they hardly talk about God and explain the science of God realization to people. Then, two more points to go. They would sometimes say God is light, God is love, and finally, the ultimate goal is zero or light, not spiritual abode. So such are the different forms or varieties of impersonalism. So a quick lesson. Not everything that appears spiritual is actually so. Just as junk food and junk media are available in the market, there is also a lot of junk spirituality. Sri Krishna is the real Jagat Guru. Therefore, we should learn from the real Jagat Guru, and that learning is available in the form of Bhagavad Gita. So, we should learn from Bhagavad Gita. So Lord Krishna then proceeds to talk about the impersonalists. He said the devotees are the best. So what about the impersonalists? What's wrong with them? So he says, Klesho dikataraste sham avyakta sakta sam. He says that path, uh, they can also get some success. And they can also know me as Brahma Jyoti or impersonal Brahman. But that path also is very, very difficult to follow. So you see, the result is not the best, and the difficulty is the highest, or is the most difficult to follow. Greatly, greatly difficult. So Arjuna says, why is it difficult? Now, I want you to think about it. Why would the path of impersonalism be difficult for people like us, where you have to imagine God as someone without a form, an abstract concept? So how would that be difficult for us or any human in general? Difficult to focus or relate? Ego lacks in variety. Okay, so the answer is simple. The answer is we have a form. So contemplating something which is formless is very, very difficult, isn't so? That's natural. If I have since my childhood only seen forms, how can I focus on something which is formless, not practical, no? So that's why it's difficult. So, how can it be easy for someone having a form to meditate and worship something that is formless? So, Arjuna then says, so it is easy to do bhakti. And Krishna says, much more simpler, much more easier, and much swifter too. Which swifter means it gives you result also much more fast. Arjuna says, swifter, much more fast. How? So then Lord Krishna explains, तेषामहं समुद्धर्ता मृत्यु संसारसागरात् भवामि न चिरात् पार्थ मय्यावेशितचेतसाम्. It's a very beautiful verse. Lord Krishna says that for those who are practicing devotional service or bhakti, for them I quickly deliver them from their miserable life full of suffering. It's me who helps them. On the other path, they have to help themselves. But on this path, I help them. I deliver them quickly from the ocean of birth and death. That makes it easier. Like if you have to do something which is difficult, and you have to do it all by yourself without support, then it will be so difficult, correct? But if you can do the same thing with someone's support, it becomes much, much easier. So that's how Lord Krishna says, I deliver them quickly from the ocean of birth and death. Regarding this, now we'll tell you a very nice story with a very good lesson to learn. It's a famous Akbar Birbal story. Akbar Birbal stories are all very famous. Who are they? Some of you might not know. Akbar and Birbal were king and minister. Akbar was the king of India centuries ago, and Birbal was his minister. Very intelligent, sharp, shrewd person. So Akbar would many times ask very challenging questions to Birbal and test the intelligence of Birbal, like IQ test. How intelligent is he? So, once it happened, Akbar asked Birbal this question. Akbar was a Muslim, Birbal was a Hindu. So Akbar asked this question, that what kind of Hindu god do you people have? You know, uh, God means who is most powerful, who can do anything and everything, just snap his finger and everything will be done. So why is it that when your devotees, they all get into trouble, your God has to personally come and help them? He can just send someone to help them. Now what kind of God is he? It seems like he's a very, very weak God. Even I, who am just a king of a country, I just give order to people and they get all the job done. I don't have to personally go and do. So why your God has to do everything on his own? He doesn't have any servant, supporter. Why? So Birbal was understanding, actually Akbar was trying to pull his leg. Look at your God. He's so helpless. You know, why does he have to personally come to protect the devotees when they're in danger? They can themselves be protected, or he can help them be protected by someone else. So then Birbal did not reply. He was just listening and meditating on how to teach the king a good lesson someday. So, after some time, the Birbal said to Akbar, said, my dear king, let's go for an excursion tomorrow. We have not been out for a long, long time. So we will go for a boat ride. And Akbar was excited. So then Birbal said, we will also invite your queens, and you will also take your sons, your children, everyone, the whole family will have a nice time. I said, all right, make the arrangements. So next day, they all different people sat in different boats, and they started doing you know, the waterways experience, riding in the boat. So at that time, Birbal had this strategy actually. He had brought a baby doll, and that baby doll was dressed in the same costume in which Akbar's own newborn baby child was dressed. So Birbal uh, actually had made a plot that when they were riding on different boats and enjoying looking at the scenery, and at that time, somehow or other, this baby dog, who from far just looked like the baby of Akbar, fell down into the river. And everyone's like, oh my god, the princess is in the river, fallen into the river. So at that time, this king Akbar, he did not look left, he did not look right, he just jumped into the river, thinking that I should personally go and protect my baby lest he drowns. So when he went there and he tried to rescue that baby, later on, when that piece came out, he realized this is not my baby, this is just a doll. He was so furious and he looked at Birbal. Birbal, I'm sure this is your plot. Now tell me why you did it. If you are not able to give me a very, very reasonable response, then you will be in the jail for your whole life. And the Birbal said, my dear king, please calm down a bit. You asked me a question a few days ago that your God, is he so weak that personally he has to come every time to protect his devotees? Why can't he send someone? So Birbal told Akbar, my dear king, when that doll or baby fell into the water, here we all were there waiting for your command. I mean, all the ministers, all the soldiers, powerful people, everyone. So why you did not ask them to jump into the river and protect your child? Why did you personally jump into the river to protect your child? You could have just given us the order. So when we said like that, and Akbar heard this answer reply, he was completely satisfied. This was also an answer to his question to which he had asked Birbal, that why does God personally come to protect? He doesn't have to, but because he feels that strong relationship and care and concern for his devotees, he personally comes to protect. So that's what Krishna mentioned here, that Desham aham samudharta mrityu sansara sagarat, that the Lord personally delivers such people. Further, then we come to know, okay, let's look at an example. In Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 8, this example is given of an elephant whose name was Gajendra. And this elephant also prayed to the Lord for help. You can see in this beautiful painting that this elephant's one leg is in the mouth of a crocodile who is biting on it, chewing on it, and this elephant is holding a lotus flower in its trunk and offering it to the form of Lord Vishnu or Narayana descending from the sky. This whole beautiful story is given in Canto 8 of Srimad Bhagavatam Mahapuran. So the Lord personally came to help his devotee. That too, the devotee was in the body of an elephant still. So then Arjuna says, is there a progression of who is how much dear to you? So many people are dear to the Supreme Lord. So is there a progression that this is the most dear than this, than this? So Lord Krishna says, yes, it is there. I'll speak to you about it now. And this is very nice section of this chapter and the whole Gita, where you come to know about the different levels one has to go across and rise above in order to come to the platform of purely loving Lord Krishna. So then he says the highest type of devotee is one who fixes his or her mind upon Krishna. Mayeva manadhatsva. That's the highest kind of devotee. Then someone below that level is one who has fixed his intelligence upon Lord Krishna. Mai buddhim niveshaya. Now these two both are on their own or in their own very big positions or very big levels of devotion, actually, to love the Lord completely by fixing one's mind on him or by fixing one's intelligence upon him. So this is called bhakti on the purest stage of love. And then Arjuna may say, well, this is so high, this is so difficult, so is there a level lower than this? So Lord Krishna says, yes, if one cannot do that, then one can go to the next step, the lower step, uh, lower than this, which is called Abhyasa Yogena, the stage of Sadhana Bhakti. The stage of Sadhana Bhakti. Sadhana Bhakti means it's the stage when you are putting things into practice. You don't really have love for God, you don't really have bhakti for God, but you are practicing it, you're cultivating it or culturing it. So it's called Abhyasa Yogena. Practice bhakti to develop a desire to attain Lord Krishna. Then Arjuna says, well, what if someone is not able to do this also? This might be too difficult for some. So then Lord Krishna says, well, there is another step lower. Before we go there, we'll look at the lesson. Very beautiful lesson. Bhakti is a natural act for every person. This is not some artificial work which we have to do from outside. If it is not done for a long time, its sense goes away, and therefore it takes eternal practice or effort to reawaken it. Yeah, beautiful lesson. So, what is bhakti? It's a natural act for all the humans, not just humans, for all the living entities. It's not something artificial that we have to do outside our nature. And when it is not done for a long time, then this kinds of the sense goes away. So you can see we have put the image of a hand pump. Why? Because practicing bhakti and developing bhakti is almost like running a hand pump. If you have had an experience in India, on the street side, in small places, you'll always find this kind of hand pump where from you can remove water from the ground. Now, many a times these hand pumps they dry up because of the heat of the sun, summer season, whatever. And then even if you try to remove any water from it, you can keep on pumping and pumping and pumping, but water will not come out. So in that case, what you have to do is bring some water from outside, put into the pump. It creates an pressure difference, and then you start pumping, and low, all the water that's there starts coming out. So bhakti is something like that. It's inside us, just like water is always there in the pump, but it needs some kind of stimulation from outside for it to come out. Similarly, bhakti is inside each one of us, whether we know it or not, agree with it or not. But then we have to bring it out because it's in the dormant state. The next question Arjuna is saying, and if that is also difficult, what you mentioned just now, Krishna, it's not easy to control the fickle mind. Yes, sadhana bhakti is not possible for those who cannot control their mind. So then Lord Krishna says, no worries. Another step lower that person can go. And what is that step? Mat karma paramo bhava. Mat karma paramo bhava means Lord Krishna is telling, work for me. Technically, it is called Nishkama Karma Yoga. And we have discussed this before, this subject of Nishkam Karma Yoga in chapter 3, chapter 5 of Bhagavad Gita as it is. Then Arjuna further puts another question. And if someone can't work for you, what about that person? Any chance for that person to grow spiritually? For some people, it may not be practical possible to do something directly for Lord Krishna. It's not that they are not sincere enough, but somehow that they cannot. So, what chance do they have? So, Lord Krishna then says, all right, in that case, they can selflessly work for others. They can selflessly work for others. And technically, it's called Sarva Karma Phala Tyagam. Work for others for some good cause in a very selfless manner. And technically, it's called Nishkam Karma Yoga also, again, which we discussed just now. So that was Nishkam Karma Yoga. Sorry, this is called just Nishkama Karma. It's a material good activity. So then Arjuna quickly puts a question: how will that lead someone to you? And because, if someone is just doing something whimsically, how will that thing lead one to Krishna? So the answer is selfless work or renouncing the fruits of one's work purifies the heart and makes it fertile for the cultivation of knowledge known as Atma Gyan. So Nishkam Karma leads to Jnana, Jnana leads to Dhyana. Now this is the last section of the chapter. As I say, it's a very small chapter. So the last section where now Lord Krishna has already mentioned the who is better and what are the levels of bhakti or devotion. Now Arjuna is putting forth another kind of question. What is it that makes one devotee more dear to you than another? What is that quality? What does that kind of devotee do that makes that devotee much more close? And Lord Krishna says, because of the specific qualities they have, because of their specific qualities. Which qualities? And then Lord mentions 31 qualities, starting from verse 13 to 19, 7 verses. Like the first quality, very important. Adveshta sarvabhutanam maitraha karuna evacha nirmamo nirahankaraha samadukha sukha shami. One who is not envious but is a kind friend to all living entities, who does not think himself a proprietor and who is free from false ego, who is equal in both happiness and distress. So this goes on and on till verse number 19. But it starts with one who is not envious but is a kind friend to all living entities. So Krishna says when a devotee possesses these qualities, even if just one of them, then that person becomes dear to Lord Krishna. And at the end, Lord Krishna mentioned, Ye tu dharma amritam idam yathoktam paripasate shaddhana mat parama bhaktaste ativa me priyaha. So then he says that one who is able to observe all these qualities which Lord Krishna mentioned, 31, and cultivate them or develop them or have in them, then that person becomes uh, that person becomes very, very dear to Lord Krishna. Very, very dear to Lord Krishna. Okay, so an example of such a person is Srila Prabhupada, one who possessed all those qualities in complete perfection. And then such a person, as I mentioned, is very, very dear to Lord Krishna. Now, when you go to the market, and I don't know how many of you like to read, but these days, lots of different kinds of books are available, as it has always been. But now you have them in your electronic devices, in your Kindles. So, when you search for books in the books or book section on Google, and you say motivational book or inspirational book or self-help book or whatever, then you find that there are thousands and thousands and thousands of such books written by people, sold. But then those who read those books, they don't go through much difference. Why? Though these books are talking about our personality, how to develop it, etc., etc. Like the example of Stephen Covey's book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. This book became so popular, sold in millions. And then, like it's written there, over 25 million copies sold. Now, that must be an old statistics. But then you see that those books, they cannot be in any way in comparison to Bhagavad Gita as it is. Of all those books, Bhagavad Gita as it is the most motivational book. And how do we know? What's the proof of that? The proof is Arjuna. Arjuna was at such a low level of consciousness and such a low level of thinking. And through this association of Bhagavad Gita that was coming from the mouth of Lord Krishna, Arjuna's complete confusion and bewilderment disappeared. It went away. So we people have to bring Gita back to its position, that this book can really, really teach very important lessons to people in life, which will stay with them forever. Because Gita, the teachings, is in itself eternal. It's forever. So one can make such kind of choice and choose Gita over such books. Lesson. Some know knowledge and some live according to knowledge. We can learn from anyone, but we can learn deeply only from those who themselves follow. God is all good, therefore one must learn from Him. Right? God is all good, so He can teach us the best. So we have to learn from Him. So that's where we end this chapter. Today we have lots of time left, so we can take your questions. Please do send questions relevant for the session today. This chapter is entitled Dear to God, or Bhakti Yoga, or the Yoga of Love. Final 5 lessons to take home. People say God does not have a form, does not have a name, does not have qualities, etc. But then think about it a little bit. God is the source of everything and everyone, which means everything with what is within our experience, that all has come from God, or He has been responsible for it. Then how can that God not have a form? though we have a form? How that God cannot have name, though we have names? How that God cannot have qualities, though we have qualities? Not possible. Everything that we have, and God should also have more. Therefore, God is not just light, He is much more than that. The next, a chance for all. A chance for all means, in this chapter we understood Krishna is so accommodating. He's saying, if you're not at level 8, then you serve me at level 9. If you're not at level 9, then you serve me at level uh, 10, means the verse 10 I'm talking. If you're not at that, then you serve me as mentioned in verse number 11. So that means Lord Krishna is giving a chance to all kinds of people based on what their level is, based on how much they have evolved from their past life, and giving them a chance to move forward in their spiritual life. The third lesson, be a bit more selfless. Be a bit more selfless. Why? In this chapter, we learn Lord Krishna said, those who serve others selflessly, even if they don't know anything about God or they're not serving God, eventually these people will rise to the platform of Atmagyana, knowledge of the soul or the self, and then from there things will become revealed. So it's required, therefore, people are more selfless in what they are doing, a bit more selfless. That will help them, as mentioned. Next, knowledge and action, which means, as it was mentioned in one of the lessons, we know, but just knowing is not sufficient. We also have to apply, act on it. So that will be the key to final success or result. Not just knowing things and not just doing things, but knowing and then doing things. And finally, invest in qualities, which is something forgotten in the modern times. People are only interested in investing in money. But here we learn from this chapter and so many chapters that have come before, that Lord Krishna is emphasizing qualities again and again in Bhagavad Gita in different sections. So the goal of a person practicing spiritual life should be that one can invest in these qualities and develop some of these qualities. So we end here. It started with Arjuna's question, who is best here or better? And Lord Krishna mentioned personalist versus impersonalist. Verses 8 to 12. What are the levels of bhakti that was mentioned? Then verses 13 to 20. Qualities of a devotee. So this is how a short chapter it is, so only 3 sections within the chapter. All right, so now we can take your questions, if any, from today's session, or if you have questions from the previous sessions, that also can be accepted. But please make your questions very relevant. And okay, first question, Jahnavi Sharma. How impersonal worshippers lower than demigod worship? They are worshipping Lord's effulgence, not anybody else. Very good question. So impersonal worshippers are considered lower because they are not accepting a very important fact that God has form. Someone accepting demigod worship is at least accepting that the demigods have a form and they are attracted to that form, so they worship that form. So form is always considered, or worshipping the form is always considered superior to worshipping the impersonal aspect. Therefore, in this categorization, those who worship demigods, they are considered better than the impersonalists. Even Lord Krishna mentioned, if you remember, for demigod worshippers, he said they are alpa buddhi, which means little intelligence. And when it came to the impersonalists, then he says abuddhayaha, which means no intelligence at all. Right. Next question. Riya, if we say Lord Krishna doesn't differentiate amongst devotees, But here we learned he classifies his devotees under various categories. How to understand this? Lord Krishna does not differentiate means what? If, let's say, someone is a devotee who is completely pure at heart, and then someone who is not completely pure at heart, then why will Lord Krishna and how will Lord Krishna behave with them equally? If he behaves with them equally, and the person who is not yet qualified for it will take it for granted or will take it cheaply. So Lord Krishna has to deal differently with his devotees, different kinds of devotees, and that's mentioned in the scriptures that there are set ways in which you have to deal with devotees junior to you, devotees equal to you, devotees superior to you, to your friends, etc., etc. Right? So he, Lord Krishna, in that way, he does not differentiate, but for practical reasons, yes, that differentiation also has to be done. Next question, Hemalatha Raoji. As Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then why are we taught that Krishna is the eighth avatar of Lord Vishnu? Thank you. So, actually, Lord had many, many incarnations, as we have already mentioned before. When we talk about the eight avatars or eighth avatar or whatever, these Dasavatara Stotram or Dasavatara, they signify the most important and appearances or incarnations of the Lord. Because the Lord, when he comes, he also comes through the or via the medium of Lord Narayana. He is considered to be an avatar, though he is not an avatar, he is avatari. Just for pastime purposes, he descends as an avatar, and that's why his name is included within that list. Rita Sharmaji. It is said that God is Nirakar, then how can we focus on and meditate? Yes, correct. So I think that was a comment. Next. Can meditation pave the way to bring us closer to Lord Krishna? Yes, depends on what kind of meditation it is. But then just normal meditation may not. So it's best that we should do that what is recommended for this age, which is chant the names of Lord Krishna. It's called japa. Chant the mantra, Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. That's the easiest way of meditating also and praying to Lord Krishna and being always with Lord Krishna. Thank you, Shilaji. Gokul, how can we fix our intelligence like our mind in Krishna? You can fix the intelligence by always thinking about the instructions that Lord Krishna has given and then the explanations that Lord has given. That's how you fix your intelligence. Where intelligence is completely focused on the services that you're supposed to do, or activities you are supposed to engage. Next, Guruji, where can we get full chapters book of Srimad Bhagavatam? You can get it in so many different places. You can get it in ISKCON temple centers. You can even order online. I don't know if Hare Krishna TV also accepts orders for such things, but you can order it online, and in that way you can get. You and also you can get it on some of the websites where all the content is displayed for free. Last question for today. How there are impersonalists still existing? Don't they read this particular Bhagavad Gita? Yeah, it is true that they don't read this kind of Bhagavad Gita. They have their own version of Bhagavad Gita where they have given so much of wrong interpretations. So we can pray for them that they also come across the right kind of knowledge and get transformed. Hare Krishna. Created man a replica of his all powers encoded. Those who can decipher can actually feel Krishna all in it. What does has Krishna created man a replica of his all powers encoded? No, nothing like that. It's not like that Lord Krishna created man a replica of all his powers. He doesn't have to. He doesn't have to. Okay. Why I am confused after knowing all? Confused about what? Confused about what? Like when you say I'm confused after knowing all about what? Are you confused about this session? Confused about life? Confused about your career? Akshay Sahu. Kindly explain again just sloka number 5 as it feels difficult to me. Okay. So sloka number 5 is difficult for you. Lord Krishna is saying there, क्लेशोऽधिकतरस्ते शामव्यक्ता सत्यचेतसा avyakta hi gati dukkham deva dir avapyate. For those whose minds are attached to unmanifested impersonal feature of the Supreme, advancement is very difficult. To make progress in that discipline is always difficult for those who are embodied. Yeah, it's true. Now, I don't know what is difficult to understand there. We already explained someone having a form will find it naturally difficult to worship something formless. Next question. Prabhuji, can we worship all gods equally? No, we discussed about it, right? We don't do that. Okay, Pinapani. How can one be a pure devotee that to living in a family? Is Nam Japa sufficient? It's possible for someone to be a pure devotee even if that person is living in the family. That's not, that might be difficult, but that's not impossible. There were examples in the past. And is Nam Japa sufficient? Not really. At our level, we have to also engage ourselves in other activities. And by doing that, we keep ourselves busy, right? But Nam Japa is very essential. It helps a lot. Okay, more questions coming. How worshipping Shiva and Ganesha is impersonal as they have form? Very good question. So generally, you see what happens is those who are impersonalists, they find the difficulty of meditating on something without form. So then they make some mm, they make some pictures or images, and they start worshipping them, right? Those images can be of any god. So it's not that all are of that category or kind. They all are not of that category or kind. It's just that some of them might be of that category and kind. And so it's not that we are putting all in that category. Some might be of that category that they are imagining a particular form, worshipping it for some time, and then after worshipping it for some time, then they think that God has no form. So it's like kind of using the form of the Lord, of any form of these types, just to climb to the ladder, go to the higher level of realization, which is impersonal realization. So that type is possible, and so they prefer to choose one of these forms, Shiva or Ganesha. Okay. How have impersonalists then ruled over us or taken away our people away from us? I did not understand this question, please. If we reach the place of Vaikuntha, do we have to rebirth, Hemalata, Ramji? No, we don't have to. Lord Krishna mentioned there. You don't come back from that place again. That's confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, promised by Lord. So we have to be assured about it. All right. So we'll stop here. Thank you very, very, very much. And it was a good session, a short one. We'll end here today, wind up here today. I also have another session after some time in Hindi, the same course in Hindi. So that's on my personal channel. And we'll meet again tomorrow. We'll start the new section in Gita, the unit 3. It's called Jnana Yoga. It's very technical, but also very, very informative, and you'll come to know certain things which will be so helpful to you to know about yourself and your life, and how you can apply this knowledge in your life to make it better, and how you can get closer to Lord Krishna day by day, right? So that will be discussed in the session tomorrow. Now, another quick information I would like to provide. All of those who are interested in staying in touch with us, you can kindly visit my website, as we also show at the banner at the end, and the website name is just a second. It's called www.simplevedas.com, and visit this website because we have lots of free courses added there, so you can check them out and be benefited. So we'll meet you tomorrow. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.